Hey, everybody. On today's Daily AI show, is AI repeating the sins of the Industrial Revolution? And sin is perhaps a very important word in that thing because we're talking about what Pope Leo XIV talked about just yesterday. Um, and he's focusing on the inflection point where we are. So the last time technology transformed society this rapidly was the beginning of the Industrial Revolution. So we got an economy where machines dictated and factories dictated, and humans adapt. The Pope is warning that he sees history repeating itself. We look back and actually we look back on the results of the Industrial Revolution. It gave us massive innovation, efficiency, the ability to create at scale. But the Industrial Revolution actually lasted for a really long time, and society had big problems adapting. So, similarly, a small group of people who had power and capital reshaped society, essentially. In 1891, Pope Leo XIII's Rerum Novarum demanded a moral rebalancing. So that's at that like 130 years of the Industrial Revolution is already happening at that point. He was not saying to we need to halt process or progress, but he was insisting that it serve human dignity, right? That there be the human in the loop, the human's dignity in the loop. And Pope Leo, and choosing that name seems very relevant, and choosing to discuss artificial intelligence in one of his very first messages to the world also seems really relevant. Pope Leo XIV sees artificial intelligence creating the same pattern, only with higher stakes and much faster this time around. The machines no longer stand in factories, they operate invisibly. They are increasingly the arbiters of content, decisions, and are trained on literally everything we've done, produced, paid attention to, etc. And potentially, right, moving into a situation where we may be repeating history. All right. So, with me today is Junmi Hatcher, Andy Halliday, and I am Beth Lyons. You're watching the Daily AI Show. This is episode 461. We're streaming live on YouTube May 12th, 2025 at 10 a.m. Eastern. If you are listening to this, come join us. Come hang out in the chat. All right. So let's start here. The people behind AI, Sam Altman, Dario Amodei, Elon Musk, etc., promise regularly that AI has the potential to usher in an age of abundance and solve the world's problems. The Vatican thinks it's creating a moral crisis instead. Where do you stand? Andy, do you want to hop in first?
Sure. Yeah, I think it's a very interesting and transparent adoption of the stance that the Leo Pope preceding him took. And that was basically the foundation of progressive social programs and labor protections in world society. Because the unrestrained capitalism that was fueling the Industrial Revolution and the let's call them the robber barons who owned the factories and the machines, uh, that had the potential and in fact instantiated a lot of misery and loss of human dignity for the people who were compelled to work in those environments. And this is also a time when urbanization was happening in order to provide the human fodder for tending to the machines, and this was a stultifying kind of undertaking for the humans involved. They had to work many hours, up to 13, 14 hours a day, sometimes 7 days a week, in contravention to the principles of Catholicism and the day of rest and so on. And so labor rights and social justice for the humans involved in the Industrial Revolution was really the, the important contribution that Leo XIII made. So by
Mhm.
choosing the name Leo and also immediately speaking to the risks to human dignity and labor and the need to lead, from the religious entity that the Catholic Church is, for ethical clarity and social teaching and international regulation is, a really kind of important signal to the world, and particularly to J.D. Vance, who's a Catholic. I had to throw that in there. Uh, so one of the points that we have to make is that back when Leo XIII took a stance against industrial revolution, not against the proceeding of industrial revolution, but for the importance of maintaining human dignity and providing for the humans who were involved in that enterprise. Uh, Secular authorities in government and intellectuals criticized the papacy for intervening in what they considered non-religious economic matters, like keep in your lane, church, because we're doing some big stuff over here and you don't really have a right to speak to economic issues. And we'll
And
see the same kind of pushback with Leo XIV, and I'm sure it's already happening.
and isn't it interesting because the papacy is like very long, right? Like stepping into economic issues is not unprecedented, right? I mean, they're a political force in addition to being a religious force. But yeah, thank you, Andy.
Yeah. So
Absolutely.
let me just recite what I think he said. Okay. So he said the main challenge is that AI is akin to the industrial revolution. It is a challenge for humanity to maintain human dignity and justice. That's the central theme of what he said. He said the church's social doctrine should guide the ethical response to AI. So he's declaring that the church has a role in, say, attending to and helping to ameliorate some of the negative consequences of unrestrained capitalism that is creating the social divides driven by social inequality, economic inequality, and the concentration of wealth, this huge income and wealth disparity that's happening. Um, He's in favor of international agreements to ensure ethical AI development. So he's basically putting a stake in the ground for regulation, and he's deeply concerned for workers' rights and economic displacement. And that's the real crux of this matter. See what I did there with crux? Uh, uh, that's the crux of this matter. Because there is fear, and we've talked about it many times, that AI could substantially disrupt the foundational economics of humans working in the workplaces of America and around the world, to earn their bread and keep. Right? That's kind of the social contract that exists. What happens when the barons of today can implement AI first systems and companies that collect rents basically from society without paying anything back to society. So the spiritual response, as one might expect, is prayer, and basically he's building on the legacy of Leo XIII and making a case for social justice.
But notably, yes. It notably and interestingly, this is not thoughts and prayers, right? This is not like everyone join me in praying that that things will work out and that's all we're going to do. This is I don't know. It feels more active than that.
Well, there's definitely activism involved, but I think he would argue that prayer is effective and that prayer invokes the power of God.
Mhm.
to actually assist in this process of retaining human dignity.
All right. Junmi, Carl, what are you thinking? Thanks, Andy.
Um, well, I think I mean, if we're just looking on paper, what kind of numbers we're talking about, right? It's why is the statement significant, right? Why is the alignment significant? Mainly because this is a leader with a congregation, a group, um, direction for millions upon millions of people, right? So this is a policymaker. And so the statements that he's made about AI in general and the alignment with previous um, previous policy, right, created by predecessors, can give you a good idea of what kind of things are going to be concerns for the Catholic Church and the things that they're going to be focusing on, right? His papacy is going to be aligned this way, right? And I mean, I think in general, I'm in a fair alignment with what he's said. You know, I think it's better to make sure that certain like workers' rights and those kinds of things are made aware of, paid attention to, and established going into what I think we have said multiple times, and I personally agree with, is that AI is a huge disruptive and changing technology, right? I've akined it to not necessarily the industrial revolution, but I've akined it to agriculture. You know, it's going to touch on every aspect of our lives and continue to do so. It's a huge jump in the technical tech to societal gap. So one of those things that we have to make sure is that, you know, people come along for the ride, are enabled and empowered by the technology as opposed to replaced, and things along those nature. So I think that's important for us as people to pay attention to. So this is one more person who I think, at least what I took away from the statement was that he's all for alignment. He's all for awareness. He's, and those kinds of things, to be like, hey, this is moving very, very quickly. This has some, enormous potentials for everything. So let's keep an eye on it. Let's keep tabs on it. Okay, cool. I don't think anyone really disagrees with that position. Now, what we'll see in the coming in the coming months, in the coming years, I can't even guess how the church operates in that manner. And is that going to be a dissemination of certain information? Is that a certain active programs or active steps for this encouragement or support, even monetarily, towards certain programs for keeping an eye on things or encouraging alignment, those kinds of things. Don't know. A lot of that kind of stuff, as I understand it, is held in the grand bureaucracy, right? Any large organization is going to have a huge bureaucracy just to keep things, moving forward, however big or monolithic it might be. So we'll see how that plays out, at least what we can recognize. And or is this more of a, yes, this is important, I'm using this speech as everybody pay attention, and then what the effect of the speech or the alignment, that may not play out in any measurable means, that we will know anyways. So it's an interesting move forward, and I'm hoping it's fairly active, because with any organization that speaks to that many people, it's going to have an impact in some way, depending on how much effort you want to put into it. So
Right.
we'll see.
Because he's the Pope
He's
and
the
he's
Pope.
the new Pope,
Yeah.
right? Is there anyone else who could have had this kind of moment and message in a way that would make us talk about it, Carl? What are you? Did you have a chance?
Not
No.
Not at all. I do think, though,
Are you just learning about the Pope's message on the show today?
literally, when I saw the show today, I was like, he had a message. Interesting. And I was like, okay. But to me, though, I think Junmi raises a good point. It's one thing to say stuff, but like, what are you going to do about it? Because I think we're kind of, I know it's a message for world leaders, it's a message to a lot of people, but here's the thing. And I don't know, I might get flack for this, but like, and as a quasi practicing Catholic too, like quasi as in Christmas, Easter, more so because my parents drag me to it because they do it. But it's more of like, okay, and this is kind of where I've always had an issue with, like, especially the Catholic Church, just growing up, Catholic schools and all that, and just thinking, that's cool that you say this stuff, but like, what are you going to do about it? Like, are you going to do anything? Sure, have the platform, say the stuff, but I'm like, are you going to dedicate any resources to it? Are you going to start things to help with this? Are you going to tell your priests, monsignors, bishops, bishops, archbishops in districts and dioceses, yeah, you know what? Let's set up stuff. Let's set up camps. Let's set up this. I have my doubts. And that's why I was like, okay, but what, like, are the world leaders going to come to you for advice? Probably not. Spiritual advice? I don't know. But like, that's always the things. Like, you have the platform. Could you do something about it? I don't like, and that was always my criticism.
So that's interesting. Like, are we going to see job retraining headed up by Catholic institutions? You're right, Carl. They have resources that they could devote, and they do have, still a wide following and wider followings in other areas of the world. Right? This could be a Latin America, South America, Central America initiative, because that's where Catholicism is growing, right? That's where
Yeah, I remember too. I was speaking with a priest, I was speaking at a priest somewhere. I can't remember where, and they were always talking about like, our congregation is decreasing. Number of people are like, okay, cool. And then I was pretty blunt. I'm like, what do you do? What are you doing to do that? And it's like, you kind of do the same thing. So it's like, well, yeah, you have like groups and stuff, but like, you know what? And I think this would be an opportunity to be like, the Catholic Church is, wanting to, because the Pope said we want it to be more ethical, we want world leaders, we want, essentially, we just don't want just this in the hands of a few while the rest of the world, exactly, every technology, there's some groups of people just take so slow to adopt, you don't see the benefits for everybody. Like, okay, well, why don't you do something like this? Would be a really cool way to bring up your congregation, do stuff that actually helps in this type of society, instead of make the regulations, oh, to be Catholic, you need this, and you have to attend this, and you have to attend it. And I was like, but what if I don't want to attend it? No, as a Catholic, you should attend it. And I was like, yeah, not going to happen. Just because you said I have to attend it. That's just me. Like, it's an automatic, like, no, not going to do it. So that, but that's what I mean, right? It's sort of like, oh, because what better way for the church to get back into the mainstream and everybody says, can you believe what the church is doing when they're doing this? Because how many Catholics are there who are working for some of these major major AI labs? And it's not like they'll just be working for the church, but it's more like, hey, there's an opportunity to give back to your faith. That to me is forward thinking. I don't know if that'll happen. I don't know if that's gonna play out.
I'd actually wanted to follow up a little more, and this is a question for all of you. Is so we've talked about new Pope's statement specifically about AI, comparing it to Industrial Revolution, things like that, and I've talked about, okay, so what's going to happen? And Carl, yes, what can they do? This, and this. So I wanted to explore what is the this, and this, and this, because my knowledge of Catholic history is that church has always been involved in educational institutions throughout time, right? And this is beyond Jesuit education. This is, there are many institutions of higher education that are Catholic schools, right? And so having that as already an outlet of how education is supported, and then there's the idea of teaching AI in schools. We touched upon that for K-12 and stuff like that. What are some of the things that you think could be easy wins or logical steps to make sure that there is this awareness or addressment of AI?
So I gotta jump on that one. And again, if there's any Catholics in the audience, this could sound as complete heresy. So probably won't lead to my excommunication, but it's like, what? Okay, so if you're not Catholic, I think you have to understand there are certain things that Catholics do. And just growing up as in Catholic school, you're obligated to, there's mass every Sunday, right? There's mass other times. And my father and mother-in-law are like 100x Catholic because my father-in-law used to do prison ministry. Like the dude goes into prison and there's like one of him and like his goal is try to get that person to be on a better path. Very, very, very hard work. Like that's not, you go in there, you're like super Catholic. That's how I see it. So I was like, yeah, you're super Catholic. But when I see when I was growing up and what they still do today, it's like, you kind of do the same thing. You kind of go on Sunday. Everyone does the rituals are 95% the same, and everybody leaves. And then I see this with my parents. I see this with everybody. Everybody looks like they feel good after mass, but I was like, what the hell did you just do? You didn't do anything. Like you say stuff, and don't get me wrong, there's a lot of missionaries in places where Catholics do good things, and there's a lot of groups and so on. But for the majority of people, they show up, go to mass maybe once, twice a week, and done. So you know what? I was like, forget that. Take the mass on Sunday and like do something else. Like instead of an hour long sit, kneel, pray, sing, why don't you go sit, kneel, pray 20 minutes and the rest of the 40 minutes fill with stuff. And in that stuff, you could have AI sessions, you could have like different things, tie it into religion, do whatever you want with that, but like let your congregation grow. And then I know there was Sunday school for those who aren't Catholic. And like, you know, kids would have to show up and do whatever. Like, you know, be better is teach them. Like that would be a cool way, right? So like walk the talk. Like don't just talk the talk and tell people to do stuff, which 95% of them won't, right? Then the 5% super Catholics go out and do prison ministry. But that's what I mean. It's like you could do that. Like, do you need these amazing churches? No. Why don't you reinvest in some really cool stuff? Again, I'm sure there's a lot of like priests and nuns and too big. Well, these are the reasons why we can't do that. But I was like, yeah, but you just made up those reasons due to decades of just rituals and stuff. So why don't you not do that and do something else? That's how I would do it. Because every Sunday, to me, it's a wasted opportunity where you have people who come together and want to do something, but you kind of leave. It's like Microsoft Copilot. You kind of leave disappointed. You're like, well, I was showing up there. It's okay. But what did I really get out of it?
All right. So Carl, what you're saying is because they have a captured market and they are a destination location, they should integrate within an AI education component to and many other things to their weekly stand-up or their weekly plan, essentially.
So
I'll take a different tack on it. I
Okay.
think, yeah, I don't know that there's anything that in the congregations of Catholic dioceses you're going to, make a meaningful difference in what is a really fast-moving geopolitical and intergovernmental race that's going to have profound economic and social impact. So I'm skeptical about that approach. It's kind of equivalent to prayer, in my view, if you're going to try to educate the masses, so to speak. But I think there is a moral authority that is part of the bully pulpit that the papacy provides. And I think that should be used, as I believe Leo XIV is already demonstrating he's willing to do, in support for regulation, providing basically a moral foundation for the need for regulation, against the arguments counter to that, which is, oh no, we've got to have unfettered competitive freedom to advance AI, no matter what the consequences in the social fabric. Why? Because it's an existential threat for us not to be the leader. That falls on the side of moral bankruptcy from the standpoint of a Leo. So he can use that moral authority to be in support for regulation. The other one is there's a bigger question about economic displacement, and this is related to the idea of universal basic income. The Pope's focus on labor rights and the impact of AI and robotics, by the way, on work means that the Pope has an opportunity to be an advocate for and engage in debates about economic security for the masses in an AI-driven world. And so there's a lot more that the Pope can do from the balcony up there in pronouncements and an encyclical like the what is it, Rerum Novarum or whatever, that Leo XIII pronounced, than anything that'll happen in the actual network of churches that are below him.
So then I'm going to ask, does it matter? It sounds to me, Andy, like you're saying yes-ish, right? The bully pulpit is still relevant. People people pay attention
We
more
are.
and
We're
less.
paying attention to it already. He just spoke yesterday. I mean, there's a certain, flush of interest just because he was newly appointed as the Pope. But I think that he has an opportunity to maintain that momentum
Right.
and focus on these principles of humanism that are essential to protecting the rights of humans in an AI-driven world.
Hmm. And to Carl's point, actually, he's part of the wing of the church that focuses on the two pillars of salvation. And no, this is not a religious show. I just did a big rabbit hole deep dive in prepping for it, so there we are. But not just the you say the right words, you check off the boxes, you're good, but that it's a path, right? You walk your whole life. Good works are also required, relevant, all of those things. So does that then mean we expect to see or wish to see um, a reminding of people of their agency? Right? I find that often what I'm hearing is I can't change everything, right? But we're not required to change everything. But it's better to try to change something, to try to affect something in what you're looking at and moving forward so that you have some effect on the people around you. And I think to a certain extent, that's why this show exists, right? Because we want to talk about the things that are coming and impacting. And I am still in a place where I'm talking to people and people are like, really? It's just kind of like Google, right? It's just ChatGPT. ChatGPT is just sort of Google that talks to you.
Okay, so I was thinking about something crazy here. Again, probably gonna get my Catholic card revoked. But I was like, hey, look, when people go to Rome, they see all the history of, especially if you go, heart of Catholicism, it'd be insane. Be like, hey, we have this, but we'll also have some data centers. So you like have a couple of data centers there, and like I think like imagine or churches that are like the numbers are dwindling so down. It's like, hey, how do you pay for things? Well, just work with said tech companies now and get some space for data centers. And it sounds ridiculous, but it's like, well, I know for a fact when you go into like churches and whatnot, there's a lot of space, like a lot of space. Sometimes you're like, well, what do we do here? So it's like, hey, this is one way you can convert that for the betterment of like all of society. Probably not going to do it. Like, but that's can you imagine the Pope, Sam Altman, and like Satya Nadella at I don't know, whatever Catholic ground, be like, today, partnering with Catholic Church or providing the land, welcome to like, I don't know what they call it, but it would be really cool. And everybody like, you literally just brought Catholicism back to the mainstream. It's like, oh damn.
But would
Like,
that do it?
right?
Right?
You put
Because
yourself.
we're in the bubble, and so we see that potentially as a positive. I'm not sure that I agree that it's positive, but let's just go with people who are aware of AI would see that as more
You
data
just
centers good. But is
could you
that
just
alignment with hope?
but could you imagine Sam Altman, Satya Nadella, Pope Leo, Studio Ghibli image, right? Like, and everyone's memeing it because they all took a picture together for this new data center. Sounds outrageous, but who's back in the main? Who is now back in the mainstream? Who's like, you know what? I gotta check this out right away. Like that. elevates everybody.
So what I'm
Like,
taking
the
from
entire-
what you're saying today, Carl, is the Catholic Church needs to contact you, and you will be their new marketing head of
I'm not
marketing.
saying anything.
Because I'm just saying, all of these ideas are definitely all right. Well, how do we spark more interest in the Catholic Church? AI.
You are just.
You know,
I guarantee you do any of this, it's like, yeah, we just signed up like 100,000 new members. Like, you will have like bishops like, I can't believe all these people just showed up, and it'd be like, yeah, now how do you keep them? And it's like, hey, they showed up because they're interested in like has the Catholic Church as a vessel to, because there's a lot of people who want to do good for using AI for good. So why don't you just refine your vehicle to be parallel and leverage the church to be that vehicle? I'm not saying, okay, the data centers might be kind of crazy, but you can kind of see where you kind of go with this. So imagine like the Pope that's a big thing. The Pope was there, everybody, all the world leaders congratulated it. Was like, hey, let's take it further. Let's take it one more step further, right? Like, who has the guts to the risk to just do that one step? Who are you going to alienate? Who's left?
well,
There's nobody left.
See, that's actually that's a great jumping off point, because what the new Pope has said. I'm sorry, I just want to make sure that it's Leo the 14th. All right,
It is.
So what Leo 14 has said in this opening statement of his papacy is could be considered against, right, the current trajectory and the current powers that be around AI, or maybe even against this, or come into conflict with what the main through line of thought regarding AI by those making AI, right? Is this the Catholic Church? Is this their opportunity to be the dam, right? To hold the river back? Is the intent to stick up for the little guy, right? Because essentially the rest of us are the little guy. Is this an opportunity for them to be rebranded as that? And is this an opportunity for them to use that level of influence to affect a great deal of change? So I guess that's where my
why
thinking process
not? Like, what's the, if what your priests are telling is like, hey, we're losing members, we're just not relevant, like, what are we doing? What are you might as well do something. Like, what else? Sit, stand, kneel, repeat isn't like, what else? Like
Do you
that's,
think this will be a balkanization of those who
but it
want
is
more
it-
morality around AI development versus those who are just like, we'll figure it out, or we'll have AI figure it out if we go fast enough?
no, I think like this is more of the like a hypothetical, theoretical, where it's not a morality thing. If you say you want AI to benefit everybody, right? It's more of like, we're on a path where only a few people can benefit right away. Well, like, okay, put your money where your mouth is now. Like, be that vehicle to spread it to and push for changes to ensure that it's equal, and you know, all of society benefits from it, humanity benefits from it. But for you to, I mean, like, there's so many points in history you say stuff, but it's like, hey, that's cool. Just like the royal family, whatever King Charles, whatever Queen Elizabeth says, fantastic, carry on. Like, it's not, it doesn't make any sense. So it's like, okay, instead of putting all that money in some, you know, lavish whatever, put it into somewhere where like, hey, you actually are doing good. Like you're actually, when you say something, you go do it. And that's what I mean. It's like your words can only have so much impact, but if you don't do anything behind it, I was like, okay, thanks.
Okay. So one of the questions that we have been talking about in the last couple of weeks is AI alignment and aligning with human interest, right? And looking at the very real like situation where humans aren't aligned in a central human interest enough to really be able to like set that up as something that AI had to follow. It's got to be somebody's version of what human interest means, what human dignity means, what alignment with humanity, pro-humanity means. Is the Catholic Church, and specifically now with Pope Leo XIV, are they in a position to lead on that? They are pretty much voicing that AI safety isn't like that it isn't just a safety issue. It is, they're calling it a moral issue, right? This is a moral, this is a morality crisis if it moves forward unabated or if the population is unprepared for the rapid state of change that we think is coming, that we talk about on the show. Is this like, is the Pope uniquely positioned to shine a spotlight on that conversation?
Yes, in the fact that it's a single point of leadership for an enormous organization, right? And so with that, and any single person you can talk to that is a representative or leader of an entire organization, that's going to have some significant influence, right? Even if it's not a technical aspect, right? We're not talking about a CEO necessarily, where it's like, here's the day-to-day operations kind of thing. But even if it is on the more nebulous or ethereal concepts, morality, duty, those kinds of things, that has significance in being able to get the snowball rolling in terms of a certain thought or concept or ideal, and that disseminated amongst all of your organization. So yes, in this sense, the Pope has just as many people in his organization as countries, right? And there's a reason why world leaders say congratulations on your new appointment. We expect great things. Welcome to the world stage, yada yada, because it's a global organization that can affect the lives of millions upon millions of people. So yes, it definitely can have an effect and has that level of importance just from the level of influence.
And importantly, it owns a perspective that's focused on the welfare of the people as opposed to the welfare of, a competitive company that needs to, dominate the AI space. So it has again that moral authority when it comes from the Pope, whose sort of principles are in favor of preserving human rights.
Mm-hmm. So if we look at the transformation that AI is bringing as similar to the transformation of the printing press, it will be interesting to see if what happens with the Catholic Church and the Pope's kind of direction for this, if some of that shifts in the way that it gets used. Because initially, the distribution of Bibles and the ability for that to become something that regular people could read was a way of growing the influence, but it also distributed other ideas as well, right? So there's like a push pull. And is this a similar kind of thing? Are you able to like send your message out? There was a conversation earlier in the chat about whether there's an LLM trained on what the Catholic Church has access to, what the Vatican knowledge that is like there. Is that something that would be helpful? Could be have conversations with people in any language, but also is not necessarily controllable, right? All right. Yeah, Junmi, Carl.
So I also think too, when if you listen to all those like all the heads of like the major labs, right? One underlying key thing that they talk about: Dennis Hassabis, Sam Altman, Dario Amodei, Kevin Wheel, even Jan LeCun, like the top names. And they all go back to, hey, the whole point of why we're doing this is we want to help humanity, right? So I think like whether you're cynical, skeptical about like the reasons, there is some sort of, we want to do this for the good of everybody.
Mm-hmm.
Like there's some, it's in there somewhere. So that's where I'm thinking is like, hey, if that's the case, this is where the Catholic Church, like any kind of religion, can like now kind of tap into that little aspect of it and be like, hey, it's not our job to create the tech. It's not our job to do this, but part of our job, quote unquote, is to ensure that like these things in the world benefit, or ensure that that part of the mission is, you know, is highlighted, right?
Mm-hmm.
It isn't just for commercial, it isn't just for everyone, productivity is efficient, but like what if you could say, oh, instead of people, the ability, I don't know, like how you would tie that into, you know, ensuring that like people don't go hungry, ensuring that people have like all the things in the world that are big problems. That's where religion can kind of play that role into it, in addition to being that spiritual like place where people go. But it's like, hey, now we're taking it to the next piece, and AI could either be the vehicle to help us get there because it's a pretty powerful tech, and or partnering with these AI companies and not being like, oh, well, like Sam's not Catholic or whatever. It's like, no, he may not be, he may, whatever religion or whatever it is, but like you have the following to work with any of these groups to do certain things. I think like joking aside with the data center and stuff, like there is lots and lots of opportunity, whether it's spending money to like little partnerships, like, oh, you know, we want to, part of the Catholic mission is to do this with this specific, you know, disenfranchised group. Like, how can we partner with Anthropic to do this? How can we partner with an open source model to do, like, I don't know, but there's so many opportunities, right? I know there's a lot of people there who are looking to, you know, AI with nonprofits, but take that even further. It's like when people say AI to do good, it isn't AI for good with companies, with, you know, corporations, but it's like AI, there's ways to do that. And I think like the church, their mosques, there's different congregations, different religions have that opportunity if they want to take it, and I think it's there. But I'm, again, a little skeptical that they'll actually go down that route.
All right. Thank you. And thanks, everybody. I think we'll wrap it up here unless anyone is going to make a face so I go to them. I don't see that happening. So this was a very interesting timing and conversation today. We would love to hear from you if you have thoughts about what this means in terms of AI, in terms of the moment that we're in. We would love to have you comment and actually come join us in the community. We have a Slack community. It's free. Lots of great conversations are happening there. It's at the Daily AI Show community.com. And yeah, come join the conversation. Let us know what you think. Was this an overreach? Was this great? Is this the first time you're hearing about it? Right? Like all of the above, we want to know. We also have a newsletter. You can go to thedailyAIshow.com and sign up for that. And we hope you join us tomorrow when we are talking about what happens when AI agents have your wallet and permission to spend. So hope you join us then. Again, thank you. This has been the Daily AI Show, and we really love our people in the chat. Shout out to our winners of our medals in the very beginning. We had Cisco got gold, Greg got silver, and Justin coming around with the bronze. Thanks all. Take care.
Aloha.